What's up, guys? In today's episode, I talk about Nergal's interview from Behemoth, where he basically said, there's too many bands out there, and you shouldn't start another one. Stay tuned. What is up, you guys? It's your boy Luis Torres, and I am sick as a dog and have been for the last week. So, if you hear me coughing, just know that that's just how it's been for days. So interestingly enough, today I ended up catching an interview with Nergal from Behemoth, right? Where he basically says that if you're a musician, you shouldn't go out of your way to try to start a band. That there's just way too many, and the only thing that I could possibly come up with is that he feels that all of these bands are cutting into his profits. And keep in mind that he's in Poland, right? So I feel like the big money is really when you make it to the US and you're doing a whole US tour. And that's when you start making the big bucks, because that's where everyone wants to tour. So the problem is when you're touring and you're at some major festival and there's 50 bands playing in one day, they have to divvy up that number across the board. Of course, if a major band like Metallica's headlining, they have to get the bulk of those funds. And then it trickles down to the last, band. So the only thing I can think of is that it's probably cutting into the amount of money that he's used to getting. So he's basically saying, hey, you're an artist, stop artisting. So, and yes, I'm on antibiotics because I have bronchitis. So let me just read this to you. So I'm on Metal Injection's website, right? And this is quoted by Nergal saying, "Don't start any bands. I'm not even kidding here. Don't do it. The world is overwhelmed with bands, with records, with albums. There's really no space there for anyone. There's only 7 days a week. There's too many tours around. There's too many shows. People don't have and will have less and less money, so all the tours are suffering." So that is the part that made me think that maybe he feels that he's suffering by not making as much money as he's used to earning. Do you really want to put another song on another album that no one will pay attention to? No, you don't want to do that. Go find yourself a proper job, finish university, travel, and enjoy life. Don't do this. All right, so I get the whole go to school, get a career, don't do the music thing. Because as many people as he can trip, the better off he's going to be, and the better off Behemoth is going to end up financially, right? So, all I can do is look back, and this is just my own personal opinion, and what I experienced, having growing up wanting to be this musician and trying to be this rock star, right? And early on, talking to a lot of bands like Biohazard, and just being like, are you guys making a good living? And they're like, no. But the one thing everyone had in common is that they would do it for free because that is instilled in their heart and in their soul. So, at some point, bands like, say, Metallica, when you have Kirk Hammett buying a $12 million house and not wanting a next door neighbor, so he buys the next house that's identical as the first for $12 million also. You have to have this kind of money coming in, or at least saved. But that's just a whole other level of the game, right? I mean, there's different levels. There's Metallica level, and then there's Yngwie Malmsteen, who wants to buy Ferraris, but he can only afford Ferraris that are 20 and 30 years old. Still expensive, but everyone can afford a $35,000 Ferrari these days. So, I kind of understand where Nergal is going, but I also feel like it's kind of a way of saying, drop your dreams, stop playing music, go do something else, make a living, but you're an artist, and that's the problem, is that how do you tell someone who, how does an artist tell someone else who's an artist or up-and-coming artist that they shouldn't do that? Imagine someone telling Picasso when he was a little kid, like, nah, dude, kid, give up your dreams being an artist, think of where he got to in his career as an artist. Same way with, say, Rembrandt. If someone had told him early on, like, bro, don't even bother. Like, where would he be? Where would have he gone with his fame, having been this amazing artist? So although I get where he's getting at, I think he doesn't understand that he shouldn't do that. He shouldn't try to discourage people. As an artist who's a vocalist and a guitarist who has signature pedals, and where all of these musicians are looking to him and gaining some kind of new avenue, if you will, by following him. And we all have the musicians that we care for, whose style we appreciate and like more than others. Those are all avenues, and we all nitpick from all those avenues to build on what we have. And should you be in another band? Yeah. That's like, are you an artist, and should you start another paint project or just whatever art you choose? Should you start another one? Yes. Are there too many shows? Who cares? There's always been tons of shows. There's so many venues that it can't possibly bother you that these people are writing music and writing albums, because that's something that you appreciate as the artist, and it's a feat that you want to accomplish. As a musician, you want to be able to get along with a bunch of bandmates and write songs together and improve on them and have a demo and play shows and get signed, even if it's a small record label, even if it's your own record label and you're pressing your own music. That's great. You're an artist. It's like painting, painting a 24 by 48 inch canvas and being able to sell it. Even if it doesn't sell, it's somewhere that has, where the opportunity is there for someone to buy it. And if someone appreciates it, they're going to pay for it. So I was a little kind of like baffled where he was trying to go with that. Like, I don't know, but in the comments below, let me know your thoughts. Do you kind of appreciate where he was heading? Or do you kind of find, like I do, where I think he's just being a bit selfish? And it's almost like, we've all had friends like that at some point in our lives, where you realize that they're kind of steering you in the wrong direction on purpose. And that's just life, that's it is what it is. You got to watch out for those traps. But let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you think that there should be more bands, because, it's kind of like the NFL, right? You have to have so many players so they can weed themselves out in high school football. Well, let's go back even further. Let's go back to Pop Warner football, to high school football, to college football. Like, these are all different levels of, where people just fall off. And then there's the draft and people fall off. One of my buddies was a running back for Rutgers, Gary Fauntleroy, and he ended up going to the Patriots camp because he wasn't drafted. And he's like, dude, it was the craziest thing I've ever done, where he basically had to prove himself. But also at one point, he's just standing there in his boxers and they're just like, turn to your left, turn to your right. And they're basically looking at his calves and his quads and his hamstrings and his back and his arms. And they're trying to decide if this guy has the physical ability to make it to the next level, and he didn't, so, and that's sad, and that's just what happens. So understand that before you finally get to the band that you absolutely love, like Behemoth at some point was baby Behemoth, right? They weren't behemoth-y. They were very little, and they weren't they weren't this behemoth. You guys know what I mean. They were just a small band trying to make waves, and they finally did, and they made it through the ranks, and, that's why we know about them and know about him. But at some point, that's going to fade out. They're going to fade away, just like so many other bands, and then there's going to be all these other future bands that are going to make it. So, it is what it is, right? It's life, right? It's in everything. At some point, we all retire. So guys, again, in the comment section, let me know what you think. I'll put a link below to the article where he says that. And again, I can't help but think that that's kind of selfish, and I feel like at times I've told musicians, there was one musician in the UK where he was applying to universities, and he wanted to apply to Berkeley. He knew I was in New York, so he's like, "Oh, you're probably not far." I'm like, "Nah, I'm like 2.5 hours away, 3 hours." And he was thinking about, he was going to school for all these other curriculums. And then, by chance, he's a musician. He's like, let me just apply to Berkeley also. And I said, even if you apply to Berkeley and get accepted, you have to understand that there's no money in music, in teaching music. I know I have tons of friends that went to Berkeley because of where I live. And most of them are just, they just have regular jobs and, absolutely incredible musicians, like next level. I know a guy that went to school with Petrucci and the drummer, what's his name? The drummer from Dream Theater. He went to school with them, hung out with them, knew them, sees them when they're in New York or in the Albany area. But, they made it and he didn't. I find that kind of is kind of normal. But even my high school music teacher told me, there's no money in music, so don't go to school. And he was a Berkeley graduate. And thankfully, I didn't go, not that I'm good at all, but I remember thinking, I'm going to go to school for music. And he's like, bro, I went to Berkeley and I'm a music teacher. There's no money in music. So take my advice, go do something else. And I did. And I did fairly okay where it's just luck. That's all I could ever say. People are just like, oh, you're lucky. I'm just like, that's all it is, dude. It was just luck, one behind the other. So, but guys, again, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that if bands should take their art in music to that level of the game. Is it just, like me painting? I have a few paintings that I have in my office. I'm not a painter. They're not bad. But, it's just for fun. Just like playing music is for fun. I collect guitars and amps just for fun. And I don't look to write an album anytime soon or anytime in the future. And I'm happy. So as long as you're happy, to me, that is absolutely everything. And if you're happy, I'm gonna make you cry right now by playing my ESP M2. I've been so sick for a week that my wrists just hurt. They ache. Oh, it's so bad. Ooh, I can't get that. I'm sick. Guys, thank you so much for watching. You guys are the best. And as usual, this goat whore fan will talk to you soon. Watch out. Don't get sick this season.